This is EP3, Speaking the Truth in Love, and I just come on for a few minutes to give you guys a word of encouragement. If you enjoyed this content and want more like it, like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Before we get started on the video, I imagine you guys were wondering where I got this t-shirt from. Well, I got it from my website that I created just a little while ago. On the website, we have inspirational t-shirts and other clothing as well. We have for both male and female. I also have a line of leggings that I've designed for different styles and different designs. Also, we have journals for all ages, from boys to men, girls to women. And check us out. Let's get it.
Let's start the video. Let's start the video.
Oh, let's start the video. I value marriage. I value family because I believe that that's what God values. However, I don't want anybody to stay in a situation where they're getting abused. I'll tell you about 3 couples that I know about. Actually, I think I'm going to tell y'all 4. If I have time, I'm going to tell y'all about 4 stories I know about. So the first couple was when I was really, really young. I was growing up. We were next door neighbors. They used to argue every weekend. And, but this one weekend, everybody in the neighborhood kind of knew that he was physically abusive to her. We just didn't know, especially as children, we didn't know exactly to what extent. Like, we figured he probably slapped her or something like that. But I remember this one weekend, and I'm telling y'all, it's like clockwork. But this one particular weekend, it was like early Saturday morning, and I remember I was out there in the yard because during this time, one of my jobs was to cut the grass. But I remember she comes screaming out the house, and he was right behind her, and he was hitting her and stuff. And it was the most embarrassing and degrading thing I'd ever seen in my life, where the lady didn't have no clothes on, and he was beating her up. And he done beat her up all the way out his house, all the way out their house, on their carport and in front of the yard, because she was just trying to get away. You know, he had gotten so violent. This was like the worst that I've ever seen. And so I guess that day she made up her mind, because it was a few weeks after. A few weeks went by, and it seemed like everything had calmed down. Like maybe he realized he went too far or something like that. That's the way I thought as a kid, right? But no, he hadn't been. I didn't know at the time, but like so many people, he just turned into a different person when he drank. And so he went out drinking and stuff, came back. But this time he had a rude awakening. He started beating her up. But this time we heard him screaming and running out the house. And she had poured some hot grits on him. So that's one story. He ended up going to the hospital, getting skin grafts and stuff like that. I don't recall any charges being put on her, because back then it was a little bit different. Domestic situations was handled a little bit different than they are now. But yeah, needless to say, they ended up getting a divorce after that. Okay, so that was when I was really young. So by the time I became a teenager, I remember this couple. They weren't much more than teenagers themselves. They was probably in their early 20s, but by now they had a couple kids. But what I remember about them was They used to fight all the time. But I remember being over my aunt's, and the girl, she, like I said, she was like, they were like in their early 20s, because I was like 14. I was like in the ninth grade, maybe 10th grade. And I remember she ran through the, she didn't knock on the door. She just opened the door and she ran through the door. We were sitting in the living room listening to music. Back then, we didn't really watch a whole lot of TV, but we would listen to all kind of music as teenagers. And he come running behind her with a knife. Now, everybody knew that they kind of had a dysfunctional relationship. There was some fighting and stuff that would go on between them, but we never thought, that he'd be chasing her with a knife. Well, fast forward, that relationship, they was back and forth with the fighting and the stuff. So finally she got tired. She got tired of that and she broke up with him. So she broke up with him, but there was a party. Her aunt had a party at her trailer. And it was like a crowd of people there. And needless to say, somebody told him that she was there, and she was there with somebody else, and he wasn't really ready to let her go. He came to that party. He came in there with a gun and shot her. He shot at the guy that she was dancing with. She wasn't really actually there with somebody else, but when he came, she happened to be dancing with somebody. I mean, and that's what you do when you if you go into a party, you're probably dancing, and you're not necessarily slow dancing, but even if you are slow dancing, it don't mean necessarily that you want that person. You just like to dance. Some people just like to dance. But he came in there and he shot at the guy, but the guy took off running, and then he shot and killed her in front of all those people. And so that's the second one. So fast forward, I'm a full-grown woman, and I'm working where I work. And I remember, since I've been grown, where I work, it's been, I could tell y'all, way more than 4 people, more than 4 couples. But one of the couples those 2 couples, neither one of them well, actually, the first couple, the lady, she was in the church. She wasn't perfect, but she was in the church. And because she went to one of the local Baptist churches. But you'd have to understand that this, where I lived, where I grew up, there was churches everywhere. There was churches everywhere. But anyway, she was in a church, he wasn't. And then the other 2, the girl had been raised in the church, but she wasn't really professing salvation that I know of. So I don't try to say whether somebody is or not. As far as I know, she wasn't professing salvation. But we're going to go to some people who were professing salvation. So there was some rumors about this particular preacher that was down here on the coast, the Gulf Coast of Mississippi. Him and his wife had been together for like 30-something years already. They actually had been married for like 31, 32 years. These weren't young people. These were people that at the time, they were in the age group that I am now. So they were in their 50s. He was in his late 50s. She was like 49, 50, somewhere in there, because he was a little bit older than her. But anyway, there were some rumors basically that he had been cheating on her for a while with younger women in their congregation. And then there were some other allegations. One of the allegations was that he used to be abusive toward her, but not to the point where, like it wasn't to the point where he was hitting her where you could see it. So it was like he hit her in places where you couldn't see it, basically, because he didn't want people to know that he was treating his wife like that. But anyway, so apparently there was some truth to some of that, because she decided to, well, actually the company sent her off, but not way off, just about an hour drive away from where our main plant is, where our shipyard is. They send her to another shipyard to help those people out. So while she was over there, it was some rumors that she had started working out with this guy or whatever. But a lot of people didn't realize that the reason why she went to work over there, the reason why she went over there with the company was to get away from him, because she had broken up with him, but he was not ready to let her go, so she wanted some distance. Well, fast forward about 6 to 8 months later, she's back over at our main yard, and she's got moved out, got her an apartment, just trying to live her life. He's stalking her, but of course nobody believed that he was stalking her like that. They just thought she was just some kind of cheater or whatever. They turned it around on her. So somebody ran their mouth and told him where she was living, and told him that she got a boyfriend now. Now, whether she actually had a boyfriend, I couldn't tell you whether that was yay or nay. But what I can tell you is he broke into that woman's apartment, his ex-wife's apartment, and he shot at the guy that was there, which the only thing that people knew for sure that they worked out together. Nobody didn't know if they was actually dating, because it was never confirmed or denied, so nobody knows. Only the guy knows, and the lady that got killed. Well, yes, he killed her. And a preacher, he had been a preacher for a number of years, but he just did not want to let her go. He did not want to let her go. He thought that she would never leave, but she did leave. She did try to move on, but he wasn't ready to let her go. So then there was another preacher who his wife left him, and he came home from work. Again, there was rumors that there had been some domestic violence. What the reason was, I never did find out. The first couple, I knew both of them, but the second couple, I only knew the husband. I never met the wife. But anyway, he went home from work. He worked all day that day, went home from work, got in his car, and drove until he found out where she was, because he thought she was at one of her relatives, but she was actually at another relative. So he done drove a pretty good ways to find her, to shoot her and kill her that day. So I told y'all these stories because I feel like the two reasons to get a divorce is domestic violence and infidelity. Sometimes infidelity leads to domestic violence because you want to, sometimes people want to be able to do everything else that they're doing, but they're accusing you, the person who is not doing. They're constantly accusing them, and then they get mad when you tell them that you're not doing that. But the thing is, abusive people, they're going to keep abusing. Once they start, they cannot stop. The only thing that can stop, the only one that can stop them is, first, they got to have a desire to want to stop being that kind of person. And second, the Holy Spirit. They got to truly give their lives over to the Lord and let God help them and deliver them and set them free from the anger and the rage and the bitterness and all that comes in with that causes them to be an abusive person. Listen, by no circumstance, I am not an advocate of divorce, but at no circumstances do you stay with somebody who is beating you up. Now, there's a way to leave. I tell people you don't let an abuser know your mood. You just don't do that. I'm not telling you to be sneaky or be a liar or anything like that, but when you're leaving somebody who's abusive and controlling like that, look, first of all, one of the things we got to do as women, and number one is we got to take our time to get to know people before we marry them, before we even go on a first date. You need to really have some conversations with this person, find out who they are. If you are dating somebody and they're yelling at you and they're screaming at you and they're trying to control you before you even get married, what makes you think that this person is going to be different? Once you get married, now he has a reason to feel like he owns you, because there is a certain amount of ownership once you marry somebody. So if a person is already isolating you before you even get married, they're isolating you, they're controlling you, telling you how you should think, how you should dress, how you should do this, how you should do that. That's a controlling person. And a lot of times they're a little bit insecure. So take your times when you see these red flags. Don't think that you're the person that's going to save them. You're not their savior. Jesus Christ is the only one that can save them. Jesus Christ is the only one that can deliver them and set them free. Don't put yourself in harm's way thinking that you're going to change somebody, because a lot of times that's what happens. And stop looking at a man's money and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying you need to get with the broke is to say, but look at the character of what they are. When they're talking to you, pay attention. Don't just laugh. He's so funny, girl. He crazy. Yes, he probably is crazy. Pay attention to what is going on before you get involved, because it can be a matter of life or death. It can literally be a matter of life and death. So pay attention to what's going on before you even get involved with somebody. And if you do find yourself in a situation like that, don't just tell them don't be, in other words, when you get in the middle of arguing, don't be talking about, that's the reason why I'm going to leave you. Don't be doing all that crazy stuff. Make your plan of escape. Don't go to your parents' house and all those people that he know would you normally go. Don't do that, because the only thing you're doing is putting them in danger. You're putting them in harm's way as well. Make you a way of escape. Plan it out well. But don't be going back and forth. Stay until you have had enough, and then move, and don't look back. Okay? Don't look back. I don't care how much you had to cry every night because you still love him. I don't care, because this is the thing. Nobody is 100% bad. So if you're in a relationship with somebody, even though they're an abusive person, there's going to be some things that you remember once you're gone, how good they were. But you gotta weigh the good with the bad. If the bad is outweighing the good, then I say you need to go back and, you're going to have to repent once you get a divorce, but you need to go back and think about safety first. Okay? So again, this has been EB3, speaking the truth in love, trying to encourage you to pay attention to your surroundings before you get involved with people. Listen to them, believe what they tell you. When they tell you that they're controlling, when they show you signs of these different things, when they get overly aggravated and angry over little bitty things that shouldn't even matter, take heed to the warning. Maybe God is trying to tell you that that's not the one for you. Anyway, again, this has been EB3, speaking the truth in love. Like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Tell me what you think about this. Tell me, have you experienced a domestic abuse, or have you never ever in your life known anybody to go through anything like this? Anyway, there's so many more stories I could tell you guys about different things that I've seen, some things that I've experienced by growing up the way I grew up. But the bottom line is, it's all type of people out there, and you can't look at people and tell, because they're not walking around with horns on them like they got on these TV commercials and stuff. They look like you and me. Anyway, be blessed and be a blessing. Be careful. Stay watchful and prayerful. And I'm out.